Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a retro review for the game 1997 as we continue through David Fincher's filmography for Finchember to Remember. This is the new installment on this as I go in order for these films. Now, this is a film that I had never seen before, which is very interesting. We are very close to. I'm pretty much I've seen everything before from David Fincher, so a lot of the next few movies will be rewatches. This film is rated R with a runtime of 2 hours and 9 minutes. Rotten Tomato score of 77%, an audience score of 84%, and a letterbox average rating of 3.7 stars. This film, Nicholas Van Orden is a successful banker who keeps mostly to himself when his estranged brother Conrad returns on his birthday with an odd gift, participation in a personalized real life game, Nicholas reluctantly accepts. Initially harmless, the game grows increasingly personal, and Orden begins to fear for his life as he eludes agents from a mysterious games organizers. With no one left to trust and his money gone, Orden must find the answers for himself. This film stars Michael Douglas as Nicholas Van Orden, Shawn Penn as Conrad, and Deborah Kara Unger as Christine. These are the main characters of our film. There's a lot more people in the cast, but these are the ones we're going to follow mainly throughout the film. We also have James Rebhorn, who you will recognize from a lot of things, as one of the people working in that for the game company. So, yeah, as I mentioned, this is one of the Fincher films that I had never seen before. I think it's a really interesting premise of this game, right? That kind of takes over your whole life. I could see a lot of filmmakers being inspired by this film to make things like even Saw, the Saw franchise. Although this movie itself is not gory or anything like that, I think just the idea behind it of putting somebody in a situation that they have very little control over just to see how they would react is very interesting. um, I enjoyed the movie overall. I think the pacing's a little off. The movie's a little longer than it should probably because it really takes a lot of time to build up to get the game really escalates. It's also full of various twists and turns, and you do have to suspend your disbelief for the last, I would say, the big climax sequence of this film, um, which I think it's probably the most divisive from what I've seen online. Especially, like I said, this was a new film. It was a new movie, so I definitely wanted to check what other people thought about it. So it's really interesting, though. I think Michael Douglas is a great lead for this. He definitely makes you feel. It's interesting because his character is like this rich, super rich banker, right? That you have zero to no sympathy for. But Michael Douglas just such a charismatic man that he kind of wins you over as an audience, especially when all this bad shit starts going to him, and you start kind of thinking like, well, what if this shit happens to somebody like me, where I don't even have all the resources. I think the fact that he starts not being able to trust anyone around himself, even his own sanity, I think it's very interesting. Um, and like I said, I think although the conclusion to this can be a little bit of it really like a lot of things had to happen, I feel, in the correct sequence. So there's definitely a little bit of like there's no way they could have pulled that off, but that's kind of how it happens. I think it's very interesting. Sean Penn is a character that's not around a lot, but is very important to the film, and a lot of it, like when he's on screen, that things are gonna definitely become very critical, which is really interesting. I don't watch a lot of movies with both of these actors, or even with Deborah Kara Hunger. Like, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything prior to this that I would recognize. So it was really interesting to go back and see a movie that just feels very 90s, right? From the settings and like just the technology around, the dress, like all the what people would wear at the time, and just feels very very 90s. Even the culture of like when you go into like these different restaurants or transportation, and the fact that you can't really fix things with just googling something or calling somebody on a cell phone, right? This is definitely one of those films that you know that game where like if you had a cell phone, the film would be over in 15 minutes. I think a lot of things could get solved um, by having a cell phone in this. So it's definitely perfect that it was a movie of that era where we didn't really have that technology available. Um, I think overall the film looks great. It David Fincher definitely has a style, but I don't think that, as opposed to movies like Seven or Fight Club, or even The Social Network, this to me doesn't stand out visually. Like it doesn't have. It feels like another '90s thriller, action adventure thing, as opposed to just like, I wouldn't be able to tell you like, oh yeah, this is David Fincher's aesthetic from the get go. Um, there are a few hints at it. There's a sequence where Michael Douglas goes back into his house and they've kind of turned it. They've vandalized it with all this like blacklight and stuff, which also feels like a very '90s thing to kind of go and do that. So, but there's some cool stuff in here, like when the TV starts talking to him and stuff like that, where you're like, how the hell are these people doing? Like, how is this company doing this? So the mystery's there. You definitely want to figure out what's going on, but I think the answer itself is not as interesting as the question. So I think that's kind of the disconnect on there. But overall, this was entertaining. Like if it had been a little bit shorter, I would have had a better time with it, just because. And I'm talking about like maybe 15 minutes, like where you're kind of like looking at like, if I ever look at my watch and I'm wondering why this movie's still going, that's never a good sign. And that happened to me when I was like a minute 40 into this, where I was like, how long is left and why are we not getting closer to any conclusion to this? Because they definitely do some very late in the game decisions, where it feels like, are we ever going to get to a conclusion? So yeah, although this is not my favorite David Fincher film, I think you should still check it out. If if you're going through a journey, it is hard to find. I believe I had to rent it. I don't remember if it was a rental or like I had to get a streaming service for a month, because I've been looking for so many different movies from the '90s, and it's kind of hard to locate all of them. So, but yeah, that's that's my review of the game. We will continue to go through David Fincher's filmography. Up next should be Fight Club, a movie that I've seen multiple times, so I can't wait to watch it again and maybe see how that has changed. Because I think the things I like about that movie change every time I watch it as I get older and understand both media and the world a little better. So we'll definitely have to check in on that. So if you have seen this film, let me know what you thought about it down in the comments. Go check out my buddy Rob Fishbeck's network. They did a whole ranking of all the David Fincher filmography where they go into a lot of detail into all these films. So if you're looking for more David Fincher content, I'll put a link in the description of the video. So, as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.